The goal today is to go through our brandable content repurposing workshop and to show you what you'll be teaching when you get a license and a few tips along the way. I am going to be walking through the slides and stuff today just to go through the actual content that you'll teach, not the materials. Those are on a complete walkthrough on the sales page. You'll see it further down underneath this roadmap. I did a whole video peek inside. The live stream today is going to be a inside look at the actual content that you'll teach. And then I will do a demo. I'm going to talk about why to repurpose content in the first place. I think you probably already know the benefits there, but I'll go through them kind of high level. I'll give that overview of the new course and what you'll be able to teach in there. And I'm going to do a little mini demo of one of the modules, which is on creating content with repurposing in mind. This is actually a really good module that you could pull out and do on its own, even as a lead magnet or kind of a preview or setting the stage for the main course. Because this course has a lot of moving parts in it that you can pull out, use as separate sessions, live sessions. There's a lot of options. And it's also one that you're really going to want to go through yourself first, because you'll end up with a lot of different examples that you can use as you teach it. Plus, of course, you'll end up with a lot more content as well from repurposing your stuff. So why repurpose content in the first place? And these are things I'm sure you're very familiar with already. Maximizes the value of your hard work. So rather than spending a lot of time creating tons and tons of content and a lot of it maybe not being your best work, you can focus on creating the really highest quality content rather than churning things out, which a lot of people are doing these days. They're just churning out content using AI. It's not necessarily very high quality. You can, of course, still use AI as tools to help you, but then you're going to really focus on making it really high quality, and you don't want to waste all that effort. So you then can repurpose it into different formats. So you take something very high quality to start with and then maximize that value. And by repurposing it in different formats and for different platforms, you can reach new audiences. You can be repurposing it for different audiences, but you're starting with something really, really meaty and high value, high quality. And of course, this is the most efficient use of your time. If you're spending your time just constantly churning out new content rather than that focus on quality, then you're not going to get that impact. You're not going to get the conversions. You're not going to stand out in a really crowded marketplace where people are constantly churning out stuff. So you focus on your high quality, using your expertise and your knowledge, and then maximizing that value. It's also much more satisfying when you know you can just focus on doing your best work. So as I mentioned before, this is something you want to go through yourself first, and you'll see why as I walk through the slides. If you take one good piece of your content and you walk through the course, repurposing it into different formats, you have those case studies, those examples as you go through. We didn't give you tons of examples because everyone's audience is different. And it's best to show these things with your own examples because then you can naturally speak to it. So it has a dual purpose. You go through the course, use one piece or more of your content, repurpose it, and have those ready to show whether you're recording video or doing any of this live. I'm doing this live and we'll be sharing my screen with a few different things. I find that easiest myself because I don't have to worry about everything being perfect. I still do a lot of recorded videos and I just edit them afterwards using my favorite tool, Descript. But doing it live, I can just go through and do it all, so long as there are no tech problems. The benefit of recording is that if there is a tech issue, you can just redo it in little bits and pieces. So do what works best for you, but go through it first, have your examples. So you'll see on the sales page, the walkthrough, I show you the student materials, the instructor materials, the lead generation materials, and the sales page copy. All of that comes in that upfront main course. And in the instructor materials, there is the slideshow. This is what I would say is the minimum thing you need when you teach the course. The slideshow, and then in the student materials, you would need the action guide with all the worksheets. The other thing that's really good when you're doing this as a minimum viable course is the cheat sheet. And that's that high level outline. I'm mainly going to focus on the slideshow and the action guide, because in the action guide folder, there are a whole bunch of different worksheets. And these are things that people use as they go through the course to complete the action steps. The other big thing in here is that course book, which has all the details and all the explanations. But if you're doing this as a quick minimum viable course, that's a lot of editing to do. I like to test things out first at a higher level with the minimum materials for editing. So let's go into those slides, the slideshow. We're going to walk through one by one. You're always going to be rebranding. Make sure you change the title. I've left it as is right now so that you can just see what you're going to get and what you're going to be teaching. So you'll go through the introduction. Like any introduction, you're going to talk about why this topic is so important and some of the learning objectives and what you'll be teaching people. I would also add a bio slide of some sort in here about yourself. So if you have courses you've taught before, you might have slides that you can reuse here. You'll go through all of that, the challenges of new content creation, things like time commitment, resource drain, content fatigue, and you'll see underneath each slide there are some notes here. This is content that comes from the course book that you can use as a guide for a script or for speaking notes. So if you're doing it live, you'd want to use them just as reference to remind yourself of what to say. If you're recording, you could use it as a video script, but make sure you add in some of those examples of your own and some of your own language. Reading it straight out loud is always going to sound a little bit stilted, but we have the text there ready for you to work with. And you'll go through, again, all the different reasons repurposing is important, what it is. So the first part is the challenges of creating content. And then there's what content repurposing is. Producing a consistent flow is all the challenges in there. And then for whenever you teach a course, go through the roadmap of the course itself. And you can keep referring back to this slide so you can copy it and put it elsewhere as you go through and do different videos or different sessions and refer to it. So the first section is on establishing a repurposing plan and goals. So whenever you're doing any kind of content repurposing, you want to make sure that there's a reason for it in the first place. Don't just take a piece of content and put it into images and audio and videos, because that's still going to be a waste of your time if it's not something that makes sense for your audience. Have a plan that goes along with your goals and what your audience really likes. So as an example, I do a lot of video and a lot of text and infographics and visuals that go into blog posts. That's something that I do repurpose, and emails as well, and some marketing content. You want to have a plan in place. What are the goals? What are the reasons for repurposing? Then there's doing a high-level content audit. You can go as simple or as complex as you want in this module, depending on the level of sophistication or tech skills that your audience has. You could go into Google Analytics and show them how to do that, how to analyze them, their website. There are a lot of options here. I would keep it very simple so that people are only looking at their highest quality content. That's the stuff that makes the most sense to repurpose, and the content that they know their audience likes and that meets their business goals. Those are the important things when they go through your content, not reviewing the 1,000 blog posts on their site. Then you're going to go into the the biggest module in here that's broken down by lessons, which is transforming content into different mediums or different media, if you want to be precise about your grammar. And that is taking written to different formats. So there are different lessons in there, and I'll go through it rather than and show you. But it's written, audio, video, and visuals, I believe. So we'll take a look at that. Then there's a smaller module that's on repurposing content for marketing. They've already done some of the repurposing, so this is just specific to some marketing formats like social media and email. And then there's the module that I'm going to demo, a short module called Plan and Create New Adaptable Content. So that's creating content with repurposing in mind. And they put together a calendar and an action plan. All right. And then there's the next step. So that's the high level view of the course. And I said you would want to go back to this slide periodically as you do each lesson, each module, to show people where they are. The main course outcome is maximizing the value of the content you create in your business and extend the value of content you already have. So repurposing existing content, making sure anything new is maximum value and is ready to read. Then there's the learning objectives. You can walk through those as well. Those match up with that course roadmap that I just showed you. So I'm not going to go through that. And then you'll start out in that first introduction by having people just take a minute about thinking about what they want to get out of the course and writing that down. That just sets the stage in their mind, envisioning what they're going to get out of it, what they want to, and having those goals in mind. It will help motivate them through the course. So they write that down in their action guide, and you could even have them keep going back to that and checking in as you take them through the course. That sets the stage, really quick activity. And then we go into module 1, which is what content should you repurpose? And this is the more introduction where you look at the benefits and goals of repurposing in a little more detail and selecting content to repurpose. So real high level here, benefits again of repurposing. You'll go through this in a little more detail. We've taken this one smart art graphic and these are each individual slides so that you can walk through and talk about one thing at a time. Refreshing outdated content, SEO, brand identity, ROI, establishing expertise, engagement, and adapting to different platforms. So you'll walk through all of that. And then, as I said, that first module is you're setting repurposing goals to optimize the time and effort invested so that it's a specific outcome related versus just repurposing for the sake of it into different formats. Always aligning repurposing with business goals. And at the end of each of these lessons, you'll see there's a slide that says, remember. This is the way you can just reinforce what that module was about or what that lesson was about. And it's remember, you're going to save time, resources, etc., and you need to set goals. And then they have their first action step that is specific to repurposing. Again, everything is in the action guide and then additional worksheets that I showed you before. So they start out here, you want to give people quick wins. So the first thing it can do is just look at one of their written pieces of content. They're not picking a main one for the course here. Just look at one piece that you've created in the past and brainstorm a couple other things. If you've gone through the course yourself, you can show a piece that you've done, maybe one blog post, a shorter blog post, and have them start envisioning again, okay, what are some benefits of repurposing this that I could do for my business? And give some examples. Define 2 specific measurable repurposing goals aligned with your business objectives. So here you'll want to, again, give them an example. And I'll go into some more of that in a second, but you want to give them an example of a repurposing goal. Maybe it's to reach a new audience. Maybe it's to get more leads onto their list. And they go over to their action guide, which I'll show you as well to make sure you've seen that. So the main action guide here has places for them to fill in each of these things. What content should you repurpose? They look at one piece of written content, a couple different formats and benefits and goals. Don't go into craziness with goals here. This isn't a whole course on goal setting. Give them some examples and then have them actually start looking in the next lesson at what content they can repurpose, different formats of content. And there's a spreadsheet you'll work with there. Going back to these slides, let's go on to the next one. I just showed you that in the action guide. They start doing that high-level content work, that high-level content audit, looking at website content or other content, looking at the quality, relevance, performance. And again, you can go through this high level, low level, keep it really simple unless your audience is very high tech. So they can look at different source information, look at different tools, Google Analytics, there are various ones. If you have one in particular you use, show them that. Otherwise, you can always cut out slides. Remember, this is editable. It's flexible. Do it the way you want. You could cut out all of that and just say, listen to your audience as your way to pick which content to repurpose. What have they liked? What have they mentioned? What have they opt into? What have you had emails about? People have contacted you about more, all of that, but it's important to do some sort of initial content audit to decide which things to repurpose. And then you will have them actually repurpose that content or actually list it. And there's a spreadsheet you'll give them where they can start listing that content. It's divided up in tabs: written, video, audio, and visual content. And they can just start filling it in. And when it comes to something like this spreadsheet, this you have to give them a copy of. I like to do it in something like Google Sheets, where you add your branding and then they have to make a copy of it to use it themselves. But depends what tools you like. We always say you have to put everything into PDF, but with a spreadsheet, you really have to put it into a spreadsheet so they can add and make it flexible in there. So they'll keep adding in there, and there's places for the URL, a shortened URL for sharing, because I use Pretty Links plugin, but you want to have something like a bit.ly link that you can easily share a piece of content. So if you're sharing, say, a blog post on social media, you'd want to have that. And they listed the written content, the type, when it was published, when it was updated, what format it's been repurposed into, where you are, notes. It's a complete spreadsheet. You can do this in a project management software also. Use and share whatever you do, okay? So that was that lesson. And then you'll go into the big module in this course, which module 2, which is actually transforming content into different mediums. And I mentioned before, it's going from different types of written content, what you can do with that. If you have video content, what you can do with that, audio content, what you can do with that, and visual content. So we're not talking here just taking a piece of written content and putting it into video, audio, visual, and then marketing, which is the next module. This is actually taking each piece and the different things. So it's much more in depth with more options that way. And then you will add what you like and the tools that you like to use so that when you teach it, you know what you're talking about. You can always take things out if it's things that you don't want to talk about, you don't feel confident in. But if you do it yourself first, you will be confident in teaching it because everything's already structured here. So you would start here, give them an overview of the module, and then each lesson in this particular module follows the same flow. You'll see with lesson 1, which is written content, you'll talk about first converting written content to audio, why audio, how you would plan video, so written to video, how you would plan that. Now, the reason we have in here more details on planning and recording video is that the same principles are going to apply even though you're going from written to video. You still need to think about how that video should be laid out. Why are you doing the video? Why are you using that written content? Writing a video script, avoiding improvising. Improvising is fine to an extent, but even on a live stream like this, I have an outline. I have those few slides that tell me where I'm going next and maybe some key points I want to cover. So you still would have those key points. So if you have a piece of written content, you can take key points from it and make it a structured script. There are templates online too. You want to go through all these different tips on creating video because you don't want them to just take a written blog post and read it off as a video. That isn't very helpful for people. You're taking your best content and repurposing it for a reason, because you want to get those messages across in different formats that people prefer. So you want to follow the principles and best practices for those different platforms and those different media. So video script tips, and then there's tips on recording video, choosing equipment, recording space, all the things that are important for any type of video, even though you're taking it from written content. Test recordings, basic recording tips, some tips on editing video. Definitely show them a tool for editing. I use this one that's listed here first called Descript, because it is absolutely the easiest way to edit video. It's like editing a Word document, and it will transcribe things. So like in the next the next module where they take video and repurpose it, Descript is really good for that also. Same with audio. Show them a little bit about that, some basic tips, where they would publish it. And then the next part of this lesson is converting written to audio. This is a place where in this particular module, each of the lessons could be divided up also because they're longer. So there's one lesson on all the different ways you can repurpose written, and then there's a lesson on video and audio, and then the last one is on visuals. So divide it up if you want it in real bite-sized pieces. And if you want, people can then, if it's recorded video, people can then pick and choose which one they want to watch, which one they want to work with. So that first one was on written to video. This one goes through written to audio and all the tips around audio content and how you would use that, writing a script, different ways to do it, and then high quality audio tips. And then the next is written content to visuals. Again, you could stop and break up this lesson more if you wanted. If you are doing it that way, then you just want to put an action step after each one. Remember, when there's a lot of slides in here, I think there's 185 slides, but you're not recording it all at once. You're not even presenting it all at once if you're doing it live. You would just stop, maybe insert a slide at the end saying, okay, we're going to end here today, and this is your next step, and stop recording. And then you'll move on and start with the next one. Remember to keep it flexible. This is your starting point. It's pretty much ready to teach all of this, but you're still making it unique to you in the way you deliver it and in the examples. Again, you go through the course yourself, you have examples, and you just share your screen. So let's say here, the next section is converting written content to visuals. If I go over to one of my blog posts, here's one that I know that everybody loves. They want to learn about launching an online course. We have a whole pillar page that has a lot of content on launching an online course. And I can even see a table of contents with different topics. So I know I can work with this, and we already have a checklist that goes with it, that it's the online course launch checklist, which is a free download. I've sent it out in emails before. So you can see that this is a visual. In fact, I think we started with this checklist this kind of visual and then did the blog post. So this could be called going from visual to written content. But if I was starting with the blog post, I could create the checklist from here. Or what we've done in here is we take some of the key points and they're in graphics. In this case, there's the 5 keys to launching a profitable online course. All it is some of the key points put into a graphic, a visual using Canva. It's very simple and quick to create. So that's one repurposing. And that, aside from giving a visual in the blog post, is also something that can be used in social media to share and in emails or in a course as well. This whole blog post could become a course. There are lots of different ways to repurpose it. So that's an example of going from written to visual. And it's an example of taking something that you've done yourself and then using it in the course. Here I would just say, be on my slides recording and switch over to my screen. If you're using a tool that allows you to do that, like I'm using StreamYard for a live stream, but I might use Zoom, which will also record the video and just switch back and forth to screen sharing. So I definitely recommend that when you do any kind of recording or presenting of this course or any of your courses, do something where you can share your screen and go back and forth. So you can be like this, where I'm on camera. I can easily switch back to just me on the camera if I want to make a point where I don't need to show something. And then I can go back again to sharing my screen and going back and forth. And I'll actually put myself over on the right. In StreamYard, I have different options of where I can put myself. So that lesson was all on the written content. Let's go through the rest of it at a little bit higher level so I can keep going and show you that one module a bit more. So this talks about all the different things you can do with written to visual. And then the action step, I'm going to zip through this. The action step here is to go back to that spreadsheet in the written content tab and decide which format. You're not going to have them in one course. Start creating from that one written content, video and audio and visuals. You want them to just do one thing that they can get done right away to make it simple. And then they can always go back and do more. That way they have that quick win. They can take that written piece of content and quickly create some sort of visual from key points. That could be the easiest. You can encourage them to do something simple. And that spreadsheet I'm referring to, they're in the written tab and they start doing that and just pick one thing to start with. So that is that lesson. And then the rest of this module is other forms of content. You would start a new video or session here. Definitely have some time in between each rather than having people try and do it all in one. While any of these can be an in-person workshop, it's too much to do in a short period of time. So I would never try and do this as a one-day webinar, for instance. Aside from the fact that you'll be exhausted, they won't have time to implement everything. So break it up. You could do it as a whole weekend if you want to have it really hands-on, like a VIP workshop where people bring their content. Or personally, if I were taking the course, I would want it as a combination of live and recorded. So each one of these can be a recorded video in some sort of online course platform like New Zenler, and then have some live Q&A sessions in between. That's one of the simplest ways to do this, because you can record and make sure everything that you're showing is working. And then you can do that Q&A so people have a chance to take it in. That's the beauty of what we call blended learning or hybrid learning, hybrid courses, where people take the informational side take it in through a recorded video and then have the interaction and Q&A where they can actually get feedback from you. That's one of your easiest and most effective ways to teach any of this. So the lesson 2 is going to be the video content, and the same format as the previous one, where they go from video first to written, and there are all the tips about written content. This is where that tool like Descript is so good. It's just incredible the way it transcribes. Transcribes best with shorter videos. I've done up to an hour, and it really depends on whether you have a paid or free plan, but it transcribes it so that it looks like a Word document and you just edit. In fact, I have the sales page, I think, here. It's contentsparks.com/Descript. That's the easy link if you want to look at that tool. I love this tool. I used to use Camtasia all the time for all my video editing, but with Descript, I get the transcription, I can pull out the audio, and it's really, really easy. So take a look at that. That's really a great tool. If you have other tools that you use, just share those instead. You don't have to share 10 different tools to help with repurposing. Share the ones that you like using, because there are new ones every day and it's way too overwhelming for people. If they have a recommendation, like I'm recommending Descript, then it'll be much easier and they'll get through the course much faster as well and much more successfully. So transcribe the video is for going to written. There's tips around what you would do with that. You can take video to audio. Again, there are tools for that. Descript does that as well. You can separate out audio. There are other tools also, but this is a way to get some audio content if it makes sense. Remember, in the beginning, they're looking at their goals for repurposing. If audio doesn't really fit for your audience, there's no point spending your time repurposing it and transforming any kind of content into audio. Otherwise, there are other places you can be spending your time in your business. Just repurpose what makes sense. So there are tips again on audio, how you would pull out audio. So say you have a video that is a walkthrough tutorial of some sort. Not all of that makes sense as audio because you have to have the visual on it. You can look at one video and say, okay, does this make sense as audio or not? If it does, if it's more, say, mindset tips as an example, or here are 10 ways to repurpose your content for your business. It's just talking through different ideas versus having to see a tutorial. Then it might make sense as audio. So you look at which sections. And these are all the sorts of tips for repurposing that you want to make sure that you do share in the course, and then change out any different editing tools to something that you like. We put in some tools that are popular. We try and stick with evergreen tools or ones that have been around for a while, because with all the new ones coming out, you don't know which ones will survive or not. That's another reason also to do these videos in short clips, because if a tool goes away and you need to re-record that lesson, it'll be much easier for you. Descript, again, is what I use. And then there's video to visual content. As an example for what I mean now, again, I said there's tutorials where you have to walk through a screen. There are ones where you're talking, but there are definitely ones where there's visual content you could pull out, like a chart or an infographic, taking it from the video, or maybe content that you covered in the video could go into some sort of visual, like an infographic. Or another thing I've done is when I sometimes do my videos and live streams, I've done, let's see, there's one where I used slides to do the presentation, to do that actual course. So here's one I did on using ChatGPT to make your PLR course unique. And you can see a preview of the slides here. I'm in Canva, so I did this all in Canva. A lot of these could just be images on their own that I can share on social media. Like here's one on keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road when using AI. So maybe I tweak the text a little, and that becomes a visual from my video. I'd be repurposing it there. Make sure you have an example as well. Again, you go through the course, you have your examples to share. So there's planning, visual content, all the tips around that. And then again, they go back to the spreadsheet and they look at what they're going to do. They've picked one thing to use with written content. They've picked one thing to do with video. If you have this in a course platform, they could just do one of the lessons at a time and get that done. So say they don't have any audio content at all, then they might not want to do this next lesson on transforming audio content. That's why this is really good in a course platform and more self-paced. But remember, they may have taken their written content and put it into audio. Then they have that to go through this lesson because they could take that audio and then use it for something else, one of these other purposes. Maybe they've gone from written to audio, but they could then select a different format. So taking audio to written, or maybe audio to video, can go in any direction. Planning the video, there's again tips on all of that. Interactive content is something you can repurpose. I think we were working on audio here. So there are various things you could do that are interactive. Here, there's even a slide on it. Quizzes, games, maps, there's lots of different ideas. And then the last lesson in this whole big module, which again is the core of the course, is transforming visual content. So any kind of, say, infographics, those are really easy for transforming into another format. Or if you have a Canva, say, slideshow, that can be converted into a video. You can take something like an infographic and expand it into a blog post. And there are tips around that. You can take some sort of visual content and talk through it to make it audio. And there's tips for doing that. And then we've got converting visual content to video. So as an example, I have a blog post in here on how coaches can use Canva for course content. And in here, there are a lot of different videos, but in the one on bulk create social media posts, I demo how to bulk create, like from a list of posts from a spreadsheet, creating a whole bunch of different images in Canva. And then at the end of that video, I talk about how you can create a video or resize those images. Pick something that you like or try it out yourself and have that as an example. Planning the video, so we go through all of that. And then again, they do that. And then there is a section that's just on repurposing your content for marketing. The others were general repurposing to different formats. This is talking about for social media and for email series. You can take any content and repurpose it for that, for different marketing purposes. So have them go through something like this, a single piece of content, and putting it into social media posts. And there's a process for this: main themes, key points, picking your platforms, creating visuals, and writing any captions. This process you'd want to show them. Do an example. This is something where a tool like ChatGPT just comes in really useful. It's a quick way to do it. You can give it a blog post, paste it in, or upload a document and ask it to do 10 social media posts with emojis and hashtags and calls to action based on your style and tone. So you have to give it your style and tone. Then you have to go in and edit them, but it's a really good starting point. You can have them do that both from written content or video content as well. Video content, you could also talk about cutting those up into shorts. We have a whole course on short form video, but if you have tools that you like, you could show them how to do that as well. But otherwise, they can take a transcription. They've already maybe done that by using Descript or another tool with a video, so that they have that transcription. They can also put that into something like ChatGPT and get social media posts out of that. Just don't go crazy with trying to show them how to use AI tools in here, because then your course won't be evergreen. You can say there are tools for doing that, but those tools are evolving So just pick one and don't go crazy. This isn't a course on AI and content repurposing with AI. This is the ways you can do it, why you would do it, the goals for doing it, making sure you have a reason for it in the first place that aligns with your business goals, that you're not just doing it because you can. Just because you can repurpose content in different formats doesn't mean you should. So you have a section on social media, and then also for email series. Email is still going to be the best tactic for marketing. You can take any kind of content and repurpose it for email series, whether it's written or video, because you can also send clips to your email subscribers. But you would just break it up into a series, and there's a process in here as well for doing that. And then comes the module that I will show you in a little more detail in a second, but this is creating new content with repurposing in mind. I'll come back to this in a second. I just want to show you the last couple modules. And that is, let's go up to module 5, which is creating a content repurposing calendar and action plan. You'll have them do that as well. They'll plan ahead. They'll do a publishing schedule. And I'm just going to zip through the rest of this here. And an action plan. So action plan where they break it down. There's a calendar and then action plan of tasks, deadlines, responsibilities, and you'll give them worksheets for that. And then you'll wrap up with some next step, looking towards the future, and they'll do some final action planning. Scheduling, for instance, an evaluation. Let's go back to module 4 now, the one I want to show you in a little more detail. And that is here. This is the demo. Now, there are a couple things I want to show you here. Firstly, this is broken into 2 lessons. One is planning your new content, and one is creating an outline for the new content with that repurposing in mind. Starting with the planning your new content, you'll be giving them a template for this, for planning their new content. I'll show you that in a second. But you want to stress that they want to consider the repurposing potential whenever you're actually looking at creating a new piece of content. So if you're planning to create a new piece of video content, you want to have them thinking about how they'd want to cut that up, how they might want to use the transcript to create a blog post, how they might want to use that in an email series or as part of a marketing campaign. So for example, I did a big long series on using ChatGPT for customizing your courses. And I divided that up into different ways to use it for different purposes. And then it's one longer video that I did as a live stream. And then we broke it up into individual ones for shorts, made that a series on YouTube. I sent it out in emails different days during a launch, shared it on social media, all different things. But I thought about that from the beginning when I was outlining the whole slideshow and what I was going to be doing with it. You want to maximize its visibility because not everyone sees that one format. So you want to have them do that from the beginning. And then here, teaching it, we've got choose your initial format. It'll be choose your initial purpose and choose your initial platform. So teaching this, I would say, okay, which do you create most often? So you will want to align your format with your content, your audience, your creative strengths. One thing that's important is what do you like to do most often? What does your audience respond to most often? Example right here, I'm doing this live, but most people will watch it as a replay. So I know right now my initial format may be live because I feel comfortable doing this live. It's most efficient for me, but I know I'm going to need to do an edited, recorded version that can be evergreen. So I'm also thinking about the fact that, okay, I've got an early bird bonus. Well, I'm not going to talk about that to the end, and I'm going to make sure that I pause, talk about the earlier bird bonus, and then go back again to the course because then I can cut that out for an evergreen version of this. That kind of thought process in mind when you're creating new content is really important, and knowing what your audience wants and the purpose of it. The initial purpose here is launching our new course. That's the initial purpose, but there's the double purpose of showing you how to teach it, which is more evergreen. And then choosing the initial platform. So here I'm doing it on Facebook and on YouTube, because I know not everyone likes to watch on Facebook, or Facebook might go down. YouTube, I haven't seen go down before, but at least I have it on 2 different platforms. And even if it all went down, I'd have a recording of it in StreamYard that I could then put somewhere else. But I know that those are the places where my audience is for something like a live stream. The other platform that I could have done it on that I sometimes do as live is Zoom. So that's much more reliable too. That would be an alternative. So keep your examples, and then at the end, the action guide, they're going to start filling in the new piece of content, planning out that new piece. And what that is, what you're going to give them is, let's go back here. It's in the action guide folder. You're going to give them this new content template for planning out. In the first section, they plan out their topic, their format, purpose, platform, and then also think about repurposing ideas. So they're already thinking ahead. So this is the first part of this template. And then there's a second part that you're going to cover in the next lesson, which is actually outlining it and choosing repurposing formats. And after I go through that next lesson, I want to show you what you can do with this, giving people an actual filled-in example. But you can hopefully see already that this module on its own could be pulled out and delivered and recorded all on its own as a separate lead magnet, introduction to the course. And in the meantime, before I show you what else you can do, let me show you that other lesson. So lesson 2 is where they're creating the outline, making sure it's adaptable, thinking about how you're going to repurpose it again. If you use a module structure in any kind of content, it'll be much easier to cut up and repurpose. That has a logical progression and you've chosen your formats up front. So you know that, say, a slideshow needs to have distinct sections that you can break it up, especially if you're recording it as video. In a blog post like the one I showed you before, having sections and a table of contents shows you where you could divide that up also. So here on how to launch an online course, we have a table of contents. Each one of those sections is an H2 style. If you use WordPress or Word, you know their styles, and that's how in Thrive Architect, which I use, and Thrive Themes, you can create a table of contents. So if I wanted to record this as video, I could create some slides from the key points and then break that up. And I can see at a glance what I can do with repurposing, because it's been designed that way from the start, this new piece of content. It's also good for SEO. If it's written content, you want to have different keywords that match up for each section, and then it becomes much higher ranked in the search engines. Going back to the slides, module structure, logical progression, think about your repurposing format from the beginning. And then the few tips, prioritizing your highest quality content. Don't focus on lots and lots of content and just churning it out. Focus on creating higher quality core pieces of content that you then repurpose. Keywords I just mentioned, like that blog post, having keywords for each section means you can break it out and have more for SEO purposes, more content. Like in that blog post I showed you, it's what we call a pillar page. Each section also links to relevant blog posts. That gives us even more SEO. It's again repurposing something. You can repurpose from blog post to a pillar page, back and forth. Again, have your own examples ready to go. Scripts and transcripts, thinking about all of that. And then you'll have them actually go through and do that new content template. Let me show you another thing with that. There's that blank template that you give people, right, to fill in. What will help people when you teach the course is having a filled in example. And what I did, I actually created one with the help of ChatGPT. And this is one use for ChatGPT that I do really like, which is coming up with examples based on something you already have, like a worksheet or an example that's already there and you want it for another audience. Here's a filled in example. You would give people the blank template and then give them a filled in example. I haven't done a lot of formatting on this. I just wanted to be able to show you it, but it has each section: planning your new content, topic, format, purpose, platform, creating an outline. It has details based on a topic, maximizing online visibility for small businesses. It would be a blog post series, educate small business owners on various strategies to enhance their online presence. This is an example that ChatGPT churned out, so I would want to go in and edit it, maybe have it narrow it down. I wasn't as precise in my prompting as I normally am. Normally, I would say, okay, this is the audience. I want it that I'd go back and say, make the topic narrower. It's too broad. A lot of different things you can do. In fact, I'll show you the chat where I did that. Let me find that chat in ChatGPT. Here, what I did, I have a version of ChatGPT where it does not use my content to train its model, so I can keep things more private. I uploaded that blank new content template. I'd already given it information about who the audience is and my style and tone and all of that. I'm not going to show you all of that, but I asked for examples of completed action steps. So I wanted to do a variety of things. And I gave it this new content template and said, create a new one with an example of everything filled in, ignore the examples that are there. And it laid it out for me in text, which I could have used, just copied and pasted into a Word document. It's actually nice with bullet points. Followed it exactly. It followed all the sections of the new content template in here with all the titles. And then I had it put it into a Word document. And then I was able to download the filled in new content template example. When it first downloaded it, it was kind of messy, and I asked it to do it in the same table format. So you have to play with this a little bit and see what works best. So let's go back again to my slides. That's all I wanted to cover with a demo. I have a few more things I can go through. I want to make sure first that you do know about the course itself. You can teach and sell everything that I went through, the full course on repurposing content. This is the URL, contentsparks.com/repurpose content. That's the URL. So that's where you would go to get this course right now. The only thing I didn't show you so far is the activity pack, the upsell. On that page, when you're in the sales page and you add the course to your cart, you're going to come to this page. And there's an add-on pack called Course Quizzes and Group Activity. And then there are a couple of our related courses. Make sure you take a look at this, the Repurposing Workshop and Group Activity, because aside from the module quizzes that you can add at the end of each module in your course, you have this group brainstorming activity, which is, again, something that can enhance your course, or you could even use as a separate lead magnet or bonus or follow-up discussion, something for more interaction. Because the more interaction you can have during any kind of course or with your audience in general, the more you're going to create a connection with them, help them be successful, have a community that you're building, and stand out, especially in the age of AI where people are not doing as much interaction, as much live work. Let's take a look at the activity pack. There are the module quizzes, are quizzes that go at the end of each module, each lesson of the course. They're multiple choice or true, false, and each one is marked as correct, or what is, which one is correct. So it's in parentheses, which one's correct. And you can just put these into whatever course platform you have at the end of the modules, or you can use them for live Q&A or any kind of other discussion. Those are terrific for more interaction, more engagement. And then there's this group brainstorming activity. The materials are in Canva and in a Word doc again. The Word documents, you'll see there's facilitator instructions for running the group activity, text for the slides, but we give you the slides themselves in Canva. There's some text content that people can work with. There's a list of possible AI tools or online tools for repurposing, and then there's a student workbook. So you'll see how it's run if you open up the facilitator instructions, or I can show you, but this guides you through. There's an outline and instructions. It can be run over the course of about 60 minutes, and there's timing in here. So you'll introduce people to the agenda, talking about why to repurpose, and then have them go through actually brainstorming and planning and picking tools, looking at different tools. So they're not actually doing repurposing in here, not in the space of an hour. They're brainstorming and discovering different tools they can use for repurposing. In here, so these are the facilitator instructions. They will also get a student workbook, and that guides your students through as well. This could be individual. It's called a group activity. You could run it as an individual one, but it'll require just a little bit of finessing because you wouldn't have the group brainstorming. It would be individual brainstorming and exploring. But in a group, everyone will have different experience with different tools. They benefit from that collaboration. So they'll go through and they have places to note some things from their brainstorming, planning, and tool discovery. They'll explore different tools, and then they'll go back and present to the larger group and get feedback. So they make those decisions based on some text, and we give you text that they can work with. If you give everyone the same bit of text, and then they go through and brainstorm how they could repurpose it, different tools for repurposing, then compare notes with the different groups to see that. And there's some suggested tools which you can go through and edit. Anywhere where there's a tool in the course, remember that you can put your own affiliate links in. A lot of these do have affiliate links or affiliate options. Some they aren't there quite yet. I believe InVideo might have one. I know Descript does. You probably want to cut some of these out. Canva has one, but only if you have a certain number of social media followers. We've divided them up based on different types of repurposing they might want to do. And use the Canva slides in particular. Anything you want to give to your students. For instance, the slides you want to use because you can use this to run the session. So why repurpose content, tools. This is just a preview of the slides. And then the other thing you definitely want to give them is the student workbook. So you can go ahead and adjust that. This is, again, I'm just showing you a preview, but you can design it however you want. And maybe the listed tools you could put into a fancier format. In fact, the tools list alone could be designed and used as a lead magnet. Why not? So that is everything there. I think we've got it all. That's the URL again, contentsparks.com/repurpose content. You want to go over there and grab that now. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions. Definitely send anything over via support@contentsparks.com. So that's that. That's the URL for the sales page, and that is our email, support email as well. Thanks for staying in there with me. It's been longer than I usually talk, but I really wanted to give you that walkthrough and come up with tips and other things that'll help you with teaching this course and help you with going through with it yourself, because this is going to be really helpful for everyone, anyone who publishes any kind of content online and is just overwhelmed, feeling pressured to produce more and more content, it's much more satisfying and much better use of time to focus on creating one really good piece of content, having the repurposing in mind, and then doing that repurposing, getting the maximum value and mileage and reach and impact of that one piece. I will look out to see what you think and how you get on with it. Take care now, everyone.